Ladies and gentlemen, I have assembled a trio of deer hunters, two deer killers, and one person to narrate the experience between these two deer killers. We are doing what I told you guys was coming down the pipe, which is we're changing the way we do a little bit of the content. We're trying to bring you a video format in addition to the audio format. So if you're listening to this on a podcast, jump over and check it out on YouTube if you want to see Brett and Chase scoff at me every time I say something stupid and stutter on myself. So, gentlemen, it is the first week of February. How you guys doing? Deer season's kind of over. The killing part is kind of over. Brett, calm down. I saw it coming.
It's over tomorrow, but I have to work.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
So it's kind of
Officially over in Alabama tomorrow.
yeah, tomorrow is the last day, February the 10th.
Nice.
mm-hmm. I
But
think
is that the end in Alabama altogether, or just where you're at?
That's the end altogether. That's the latest Alabama goes is February the 10th for the state.
Okay.
so.
Gotcha.
I've got to February 14th. But I'm not
Mhm.
hunting this weekend. I'm done, man. I got to get caught up on honeydews. Deer season, turkey season's getting here. I pushed my luck with an infant. Chase did not adequately warn me about what this first season was going to look like, and
No,
so
no.
so
I went back and listened
uh
to
huh.
the Tallahassee podcast, and when you were talking about bold predictions, and Chase said it would have been bold if you said you get out more than 2 times this deer season.
Yeah, well, I did get out more than 2 times, but everybody knows how that story went. I didn't kill anything, so the good news though is I don't measure my deer seasons by kills. I measure it very similarly, Brett, to I think kind of how you're going to discuss things here in a little bit. But I measure it in just those encounters, and I had a lot of encounters with a different caliber of deer. Consistently got on deer, which is the first time in Florida I've consistently got on deer, which is awesome. That's a huge progression for me. I owe a lot of that to you because you came out and helped me in August scout and get to know some areas, and we'll get to all that at some point in time. But gentlemen, how do we feel with the 2021-2022 deer season behind us? Good feelings, bad feelings? Kind of give us the synopsis. How are we feeling?
I'm feeling. I mean, I feel good. It could have went way better, but I feel like I took a lot out of this season. I got a lot to improve upon, and I still had a really good season coming off of my best season last year or the previous year. So I feel good about it.
I feel fine about my season. Had a lot of hiccups during the season. Some of the hunts that I had, and I did not get out nowhere near as much as I normally do. That was due to a bunch of outside factors this season.
Mm-hmm.
But it was kind of interesting because normally I'm out way more than what I went out this past year. So I think it kind of let me reflect a little bit and realize that there was something like this season when I wasn't hunting. I felt like I was missing something. It felt like there was just something, and I know it was just being out in the woods, going out there, getting the experience of just being out there, not necessarily the kill or killing big bucks or anything like that. Just being out in nature, enjoying hearing the birds sing, watching the sun come up, all that. I mean, I consider that my church, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that I realized, hey, some of those times where I didn't get out, where I probably could have, I needed to go ahead and make that push to get out there.
Yeah, yeah. It was a booger of a season for a variety of different ways. I mean, if you're a listener of the podcast, you know that we kind of struggled to get content out. We had, like you said, external things happen, and it is what it is. That's behind us, hopefully, or it is behind us. I'm just going to speak that into being. So, deer season was a constant battle of learning new things. I may have picked a bad year to try and figure out water access and figure out my boat and all this. I may have bit off a little more than I could chew, but at the same time, looking back, I had an absolute blast, and I keep reliving these hunts over and over again in my head, and that to me is the sign that I did the right thing. You know, to some measure. But you know, Brett is, well, I call him affectionately the South Alabama legend, because I genuinely believe that there's nobody in, frankly, I don't think there's anybody that scouts as hard as you do postseason. And the Marco Polo group that you're a part of, for anybody who doesn't know already, Brett is a patron of the show. He is in our Marco Polo group. He drives the deer hunting conversations. Honestly, he's always thinking about deer hunting, and so he's constantly pushing people to think about deer in different ways. He's the innovator of the group in a lot of ways. This year he attacked the ground game, and we got to watch that progression. And he's very open and honest in the group about mistakes that he made or how encounters went down. He's a no BS kind of guy, and one of the things that happened in the group was after the Patreon hunt that happened in January, everybody started shifting to turkey. And by everybody, I started shifting everybody to turkey. And I started talking turkey because everybody knows that's my big passion in life. And Brett very gently threw up the caution signs. And he's like, guys, deer season's not over. First off, we can still kill deer because deer season's open in a lot of places. But secondly, this upcoming season is very valuable for a couple of different reasons. One of which is reflecting on the past season when the memories are fresh and evaluating how the season went in a very honest and articulate or a thorough manner. And then the other part of this is the postseason scouting. I think for the purpose of this, let's talk about the former, and then I think, Brett, one of the things I want to do is have you back on to kind of talk about, and we may have time in this episode as well, and if so, we can incorporate it. But one of the things that you've really been talking about, and you've been very open with the group, is things that you're looking back on and trying to evaluate. So kind of why don't you break down what this time of year looks like for you, and then maybe we can dig into some of the things you wish you had, or not necessarily wish you would have done differently, but things that you're going to improve on next year.
This time of year for me, honestly, is my bread and butter. This is what makes my season. So coming in to deer season 2022, all my success is going to come from right now. What I do right now in the off season, and I know that to be true because how I've hunted in the past. And when I started going about it a different way of putting in all my time and effort, as soon as season goes out, like literally sometimes the next day, like if it goes out the 10th, the 11th, whatever day I have. But that is just when I started doing that. It's not just postseason scouting. I mean, it is big time. That's probably 80% of it. But there's also I got into doing all my own bow work. I got a bow press. Started tuning my own bow, making my own arrows, shooting, just understanding that aspect. And I find that I like to look back at my season, like for this year, for example. I think like we've talked about some. I like to look. Well, I know everybody's heard of Andy May, and I heard him do a podcast with somebody. I have no idea who. Just randomly stumbled across and was, I want to listen to this. And he talks about during the off season, what he does is he evaluates his weaknesses. He picks two of them, and that's what he works on during the off season. So I took that, and my weakness is, or my strength was, is I love being in a tree. That's where my comfort zone is. And I never really been a ground guy, and I never been much of a rattling or calling. So I went in to work on that. The previous year, I worked on my bow, my setup, and being a better just all-around shooter with my bow. But this year, I wanted to work on my ground game. I wanted to actually give a full season with calling, grunting, rattling, actually giving it a real go instead of just doing it once or twice and saying, this doesn't work. Because as I found out this year, it does work. It doesn't always work, but at the right times, in the right situation, in the right places, it is very effective. And I did actually kill my first buck this year off the ground, first buck ever off the ground. And that is an experience I will never forget. And honestly, I wish Chase was still there, where I could experience that with him too. But may have been a good thing he left because I got my mojo back after he left and able to kill.
So you're referencing Missouri, right?
Yeah,
Why don't you briefly tell everybody that story because you kind of teased it, and I think it's a really cool experience, man.
yeah. So another thing I've also always done good is doing observation sits. I like to sit back and watch areas, and I've never done an observation sit that wasn't useful in some way. Now you have to find you have to take something out of everything, and even if it's okay, I know I don't need to hunt over there because the deer not moving in that area, or you see deer use a certain trails, you know.
Hmm.
So observation has always been good for me, and I sit basically in a spot I can see a long ways and a big, I mean, similar to a cutover, what I call CRP out there. And I seen a buck doing a certain thing. He was kind of coming and going in a certain spot, so I knew there was some trail or something over there. Every time I seen him out there, he ended up or either walked through that spot somehow, some way. No matter where I seen him, he ended up there or he come from there. So that last day, I think I told Chase when they left that if I see him again, I'm probably going after him. I'm gonna go get into CRP with him and see what happens. And sure enough, I seen him that morning. I watched him with a doe. So I knew he was gonna be out there with that doe. He was tending doe, running another buck off, and I just got down, went to the truck, changed, made the long walk around, and come in with the wind in my face, and I sat there for about 7 hours. And right after sunset, I got I took a bunch of pictures from the stand as well, which was key. Once I got out there, because that stuff is like as tall as I am,
Hmm.
and that played a huge role. Because when I got out there, I ended up moving 3 times to get in the best position to shoot the deer if it come through there, like I've been seeing. And sure enough, when the sun set, he was there 60 yards from me, and ended up getting a shot on him at 8 yards, and had to leave him overnight, and went back the next day and found him. Pretty darn excited. It was 8 yards on a deer when you're at eye level with him, and he's about 200 pounds. That's something else. I
I
mean, that's a
I don't know
feeling.
how he didn't see you shaking because I'd have just been like, yeah.
And that's the cool thing about Marco Polo, because hey, y'all got to live a lot of that with me and a lot of the other guys. And that's one thing I love about when other guys are out hunting, shooting deer. We get to be there right there with them a lot of times. So it's awesome.
Yeah, that was cool because I think when you killed that deer, I was at my desk at work, and right because it was a weekday. It wasn't on the weekend, was it?
Yeah, I want to say it was a
I think it
Monday,
was a Sunday. Was it a Sunday? I think it was a Sunday
maybe.
because that's when I was driving back.
Yeah, so it was
You found it
it was
on a
a Sunday,
Monday.
but I found
Yeah,
him on Monday.
I remembered some part of it was while I was at work, and so the beauty of this of that app and the group that we've fostered over there is there's always somebody in the woods when you don't want to be, and so if you got a few minutes and you can watch a couple polos, you know somebody is out there. And I tell you now, this doesn't come with a caveat because one of the most annoying things in the world is in the springtime when Brett is out there scouting. The dude, hand to God, if you've ever said this to yourself, you can't find sheds in the South, you're full of crap. Because Brett, I swear to God, was it like 26 antlers you found last year?
Yeah, I believe that it was somewhere right around 26, within one or two of that.
and, and it was like every day. It felt like every day he's out there, and it's like, look at these four that I found. Look at these three that I found. And then one day he had like the whole chase. I don't know if you remember this. He had the whole like width of his tailgate full of sheds. Do you remember that? I was
Mm-hmm.
like, dude, you've got to be kidding me, you know? And here I am telling myself I can't find sheds. The difference is Brett is out there. He's out there this time of year when the foliage is gone and it's easier to see the ground, and he's putting the miles in. I think you keep a log, don't you, of how much scouting you do?
So I did this year, and that's what I was. I think I told you last year I'm going to keep up with
Yeah.
how many hours I kept up with my hunts, whether there were whether my hunts were morning, afternoon hunts, how many deer I seen. I also label my ground hunts different than my stand hunting and how many deer I seen, and pretty eye opening keeping up with all that.
Do you have an idea of about how many miles you took this spring, or are you saying you started that after you started logging that after this spring when you were doing your scouting?
No, I started logging it right away, and I didn't actually log miles. I just logged hours
Oh, okay.
spent.
How many hours do you think you had this past spring?
I had to look at my phone to be positive, but I think it was 115 hours is what I put in, and this is on one piece of public.
Right.
Now, I only logged what I did on that piece of public, and I logged the hours I put on the piece of public I went with you,
Yeah.
and I think it was like right at almost 15 hours that I put in over there
Yeah.
before.
Yeah, and I think that's caveat or key here is that you sell out to a piece of public and you dominate that piece of public. You scout every inch of it. You learn the patterns of the deer. You learn the estrus cycles of the does. You don't do what I've done and make mistakes where I spread myself entirely too thin. I mean, you really invest, and even if that means lower returns for a period of time, you're really trying to hone in on that. But I'm curious, looking back, you talked about the ground game. What specifically would you, when you're looking back on last season, what are you really trying to hone in on this year?
What I'm trying to home in on, like as in scouting or
No, no, like you said
hunting.
the two things you try and pick two things to improve on. Like let's kind
Oh,
of dig into that a little bit. What are those two things? Like if you went into the specifics of it, what are you going to do differently this year?
for certain, I'm going to continue the ground game, and I got a long ways to go. It's difficult. It's not easy by no means, but I will tell you this: I had 7 mornings I sat on the ground, and I seen 6 bucks, and 5 of them were 3.5 and older,
Wow.
and that was really eye opening. And it's not like I'm just sitting on the ground. I'm sitting in the ground in places that you can't hunt. You can't get elevated and hunt.
Right.
I'm sitting in thickets and stuff with smaller trees, stuff you just can't climb in, but people aren't hunting it, or at least I don't believe. And I'm just getting off in the edge of it, just say 30, 40 yards, to where I know deer's not going to come through this opening behind me. So I know the deer are going to be kind of out in front of me, and that worked really well with rattling, especially comes a certain time of the year. And I rattled up, I think, one, two, three, four, 4 bucks in there.
Wow. That's really, so it's funny because you hear Chase. I mean, I'm sure you've heard this before, especially when you started getting into hunting as an adult. All the things you can't do to kill deer, right? Like calling doesn't work and things like that. To hear Brett go and hunt from the ground, which is kind of counterintuitive. Most people don't do that, and you're not using like a ground blind, right? You're just your natural cover, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of different deadfall and dead limbs, and I try to
Right.
stack all that up behind me, and I try to make some in front of me, but I got to do a lot more because there was only one deer I was at full draw, and I could have easily shot, but he was on like 2.5. I didn't shoot him, but all the rest of them, I got drew back on 2 more bucks in there, and I was busted. Like they come in within like they had to be within 20, 25 yards to get a shot and stuff so thick. I mean, when you seen the deer, he was within 40 yards, but most of the time he was within 30 yards before you could ever see him. So this stuff's thick. And I got to figure out how to make it work and get drawn back. I'm doing this all with a bow as well. I don't know if we mentioned that, but I bow hunt probably, I mean, at least 90% of the year, always. So I got to figure out how to get drawn back and actually not get busted. Because I've had deer that I just needed 2 more steps on. One of them I needed like 3 yards on. I mean, just that close to shooting like some really nice deer. So it just fuels my fire. I got to figure it out. I mean, it's gonna drive me crazy. So I'm gonna scout the crap out of that place. I'm gonna figure out better places to set up. I'm gonna go ahead before season. I'm gonna drag logs, anything dead in there. I'm gonna go ahead and make blinds, and I'm have them set up for different winds, set up in different places around like areas that fit in to what I hunted this year, and that way I don't have to do a bunch of disturbances. But I just got to figure out a better way to stay concealed and get actually execute a shot on the deer besides just getting them in the bow range and then not being able to shoot them. So that's something I had to work on.
So is that 1 and 2, or is that just one?
That's just one, really. To be honest, I hadn't really thought about number two,
That's okay. There's still time left.
um, but I for sure that's number one. Oh, I mean, one other thing I've done told myself I wanted to do is I think somebody else in the group mentioned it the other day, and I think it's good for anybody is get a 3D target, and I'm a
Mm.
my saddle in the yard, and I want to set the deer with quartering shots and some really close shots. But when they're close to your tree, say you use a 20-yard pin like most people do, uh, a lot of times you have to aim a little lower and just having all that dialed in just in case that happens. Because a lot of times I find that when I get on deer I want to shoot, they end up pretty close to my tree. I think
Hmm.
the one I mean, both both bucks I shot this year were one was at 15, one was at 8 yards,
Mm.
which one was on the ground, granted, but I just always notice when they're about 15 to 12 yards, I hit a little high on them, which is okay because I'm usually high in the tree. But I just, something I need to practice. And okay, in case if I have one even closer, I don't want to spine shot or backstrap it or something.
That makes sense. Chase, as always, I'm dominating the conversation. So if you want to jump in, go ahead.
Oh man, I'm just listening to Brett, trying to think myself of ways that I could possibly utilize a ground game down here.
Hmm.
I haven't had a lot of success with calling. Maybe it's just that it's not the right time of year. I know calling is kind of specific a lot of times to it's just got to be the right time of the year. I've done it a bunch. I don't think I've ever had anything respond to rattling. I've had stuff respond to grunt calls, estrus
Hmm.
cans,
Hmm.
things like that. I just have never had anything respond. Now, I say never. Uh, that could be because who knows? The deer came in downwind and I never saw them. I mean, there's always that possibility to where maybe I'm just not set up right. My setup's not right for rattling, and I just break out the rattling antlers and go, I hadn't seen anything. I'm going to try that today, and never really thinking about, hey, if I am going to rattle, where my setup needs to be kind of dialed in for that to be able to execute, to maybe get it to where, okay, this deer can't circle downwind 150 yards, 200 yards from me, pick up my scent, and I just never see it. So a lot of people, when you're saying, oh, it's never worked, maybe it didn't work because you weren't set up properly for it to work. So there's all kinds of things that in the deer woods you kind of got to think about other than I'm just going to try this and see if it works. And I know, especially being on the ground, you really got to have that setup dialed in,
Hmm.
especially the wind. I mean, I've killed some deer on the ground, but it was I had like a ground blind setup for those deer. I've killed them on the ground with a gun, obviously, which is a lot easier than doing it with a bow at 15, 20 yards trying to get drawn back pretty much out in the open. So I was just kind of rolling through my head of trying to figure out maybe different ways I can attack things. I mean, there's definitely some areas where the trees are limited in some of the areas that I hunt. And I'm always looking for ways to get in a tree somehow. I did hunt in a tree this year where I got maybe, I don't know, 7 feet off the ground on a tree, and I was like, well, this is just how the setup's going to have to be. and I tried to make sure I was kind of shielded. I did notice that I got busted more, but there were also a couple of bucks. Had they been bigger, I would have gotten shots on. They didn't know I was there. So just because you can only get whatever 6 7 feet off the ground in an area, I mean, just like ground hunting, you can make it happen. So uh, sometimes I think we limit ourselves a lot as hunters just because we're like, well, it's only going to work if I'm 26 feet up in the air and in a tree, and I feel like that could possibly be a weakness for everybody. Is just having that limiting factor in there is like, oh, I can't do this, and then Brett went and did things that he's never done before, and found out, oh, I can do all these things when the situation's appropriate.
Yeah.
Uh, to throw 2 cents in on the calling aspect, I called pretty much all year. I didn't rattle all year, but come pre-rut to the end of season, um, I tried it, and it doesn't always work. I was in the same places that I rattled up bucks and rattled, and it didn't nothing come to it. So just because you rattle that one time doesn't mean a week or two later it won't work in that same spot. What I found out is it's just the time of the year. It just depends on if the deer are in that right mood, like maybe pre-rut or late season. When they're in that mood to come to calling. Because I've rattled in these spots that I called bucks up in times and times before and after I rattled the bucks up with no response.
Mm.
So it's not going to work always. I feel like it only worked maybe 15% of the time, but when it did, it's freaking awesome. And the bucks I rattled up were good deer, all 3.5 and older. I had two 100% were at least 4.5 year olds. I mean, over 100-inch deer within 25 yards at full draw, and he stuck his head around the tree and just stared at me. And I'm at full draw for like 20, 25 seconds, and started shaking so bad that he could just, he could see me shaking. He took off, and then an hour later rattled up another deer that was over 100 inches, and he stood at like 30 yards. I knew him. It'd take like 3 or 4 steps past this like super tall grass to get a shot on him. And I'm not gonna grunt this time because I grunted last time, but he like pinpointed me and he come in and stuck his head around the tree instead of his body. So I didn't do that, and then he stood there for probably 6 or 7 minutes. Then he just turned and walked out the way he come from.
Mm.
So it's kind of I was like, I did it one time and got busted. I didn't do it the next time and he didn't come in. So I got a lot to learn. Basically, what I'm getting at. But it doesn't always work. It probably only works like 15% of the time, but when it does, it's very addicting.
Oh yeah, I know we've had James Stovall on the podcast before,
Mm-hmm.
and he mentioned he's a big Florida hunter, and he mentioned like his calling, and it was like he was calling almost every 15 minutes in the tree, and his whole thing was is like, well, the deer just might not have been in earshot of that call 15 minutes ago, and
Mm-hmm.
now he's cruising through, and there's finally a deer within earshot of that rattling to be able to respond because their range is so wide in Florida. I mean, they
Mm-hmm.
do move a lot, and especially during the rut or whatever. Who knows? The buck could have been chasing a doe a half mile away 15 minutes ago, and now he's closed the distance enough to be within earshot of your rattling to where he's going to come in. But I know he calls a lot and quite a bit, and I think during all parts of the season for the most part. So it is effective in Florida for sure.
Yeah, I've had a pile of success. In fact, everywhere I've hunted. Let me walk that back here. See if I need. Yeah, every region of both Georgia and Florida that I've hunted, I've been able to call in deer, buck and doe. The biggest buck I ever shot and missed up in North Georgia. I grunted him. I was hunting on the ground. I'd kind of done a Brett Mashburn. There was this little connection between the little like almost a saddle, but it was really just a crossing between a crossing in a creek. And I set up a ground blind, and I'm watching this creek crossing, and I thought I heard something on the far side, and I grunted, and a buck came in behind me, and I pivoted, spun and shot, and I had like a gap like this between the trees, and I barked a tree. But I mean, I've called in. I was thinking about this the other day. I've called in almost half the deer that I've shot, bucks wise. But half the bucks that I've shot have been deer that I've called in, including one of them last year. The 8-point that I shot in Florida last year was one that I called in for reference. And I call year round. I have a fawn or doe bleat on me at all times, and I've got a grunt tube on me. And I have a lot of success during bow season. Using the doe and heat, the little can that kind of sounds like a little fawn bleat. I'll do that, and the does will come in just to investigate. And everybody I talk to about is like, oh, they come in on high alert. I mean, they come in looking, but they're not like freaking out. And I've had them come right to the base of the tree that I'm in and be looking around. I'm like, oh. So next year during bow season, I'm going to try and employ that in areas that I know have a high doe count. I'm going to go in there and do that doe and heat, and I'm going to probably use that in tandem with the ground game, because there's these nice pine thickets that are out there that are real dense, and those deer are coming in and out of those trails plain as day. And if I can catch them as they've just gone in there and kind of call them to the perimeter, I think it'll pan out. But I think calling is one of those things that it doesn't work until it does, and I think a lot of people try it and then they just like don't do it again. And it's one of those things where, Brett, you said 15% of the time it works. Man, I'd bet you my odds are like 1 to 2% of the time it works. But it's one of those things where I've never had it that I could tell. Granted, something could have heard me and ran off. I've never grunted or made a deer call in spooked game. I mean, especially like deer that I'm seeing at a distance. I'm like, clack, 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 clack. I'm just trying to like spook that deer. And they look over there like, who the hell is over there fighting, man? Like, they just don't care here for me. Georgia, North Florida, I haven't spooked anything off. It might be a totally different. I bet you Herb right now is like losing his mind. He's like, oh no, you can scare off deer. I guarantee you Herb is freaking out about that comment. But in Georgia and Florida, I've yet to call in or scare a deer with calls. So I think that's a great.
I second that.
Yeah. So you've never scared. You don't feel like you've ever scared off a deer. Yeah.
That's what I said.
Well, I have
Purposely scared deer off, like late where I could get out the stand, took rattling horns, just wow, just jamming on the gator, being as loud as I can. They just look around and just keep doing their thing. I'm like, really?
Okay, Chase, give us the breakdown. You said you have scared off deer. What, like?
I have scared off deer grunting at
really?
bucks. Yeah. Oh yeah. I grunted at a buck. I think it was a couple of years ago. He was just out of range. There was a doe that kind of passed through, and he was kind of following her, but he was kind of on the edge of the wood line.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I'm gonna grunt at him just to see. I was on the fence of whether I was gonna shoot him or not at that point, and it was later in the season. It wasn't like prime rut or anything like that, but somehow I guess this doe, maybe the second or third rut or whatever, she must have come in because he was following her.
What age class of a buck?
I think he was probably a 2.5, maybe 3.5-year-old or whatever, and he came through, and I like I said, he was on that edge, and I was like, well, I'm going to grunt at him just to see if he just – because sometimes I've grunted at him before. I've grunted at him, and I've had him just come charging in, like from a couple of 100 yards away, like balls to the wall coming in. And then I've also had them just like they're going to come a little bit. You know what I mean? They're going to come enough to kind of look to see, like, okay, what was that? And that's what I was hoping out of him was, like, just clear just enough. I mean, 5-10 yards. All I need is you to come 5-10 yards, maybe at least poke your head out and go, what was that? And, I mean, the second I hit that grunt call, that joker booked it. I'm talking about just gone. Like,
maybe it was
area. Yeah, there might have been. I mean, I guess I've been known to be in areas where there's big bucks before. I don't know, but
okay.
So there could have been a big buck in that area, but him. And maybe there may have been I mean, it doesn't spook them all the time. Like I said, you can kind of look at a deer. Like I said, I've looked at them before where they're running and stuff and call to them and get their attention with it. I've also done it to where, like I said, they did absolutely nothing. Where it was just like it just didn't even look up, didn't phase them at all,
Mm.
and just have them keep walking. And I know they were within earshot of the call. So I mean, it could be, it's deer dependent. I mean, you got, I mean, it's just like humans. You got people that are on edge all the time that are not, and then you got people that just don't give a rip about anything, so that they really don't care. And you got guys that love to fight, so they're going to come in. But to me, I would have never. I don't think I would have ever gotten a shot on that deer, anyways, if I had not tried the call. So it wasn't like a loss for me or anything, because I don't think I would have. There was never a chance of me getting a shot on him, anyways. So why not try it? It's
Sure.
just something else in the arsenal. And I don't think I educated because he didn't see me. Like I said, I mean, you talk about educating deer. What I was like, well, he never saw me. He didn't have a clue I was in the world. He just heard that grunt. Like he didn't even look up to see that grunt. He just booked it. So I'm not big on the you educated the deer or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, how did I educate him? He wasn't downwind, and I know for a fact that he didn't see me. So maybe he had been grunted at before and had a bad experience. I don't know, but you can spook deer just like you can spook them doing anything else by reaching into your backpack and grabbing a little Debbie. I mean, so
I feel personally attacked right now, Chase.
well, there you go. You know where this season went. Too many little Debbies.
Yeah, might be my nickname if I'm not careful here, Little Debbie.
We
Brett.
need to get a shirt that says Little Debbie. For hunting.
Yeah, we do. That'd be funny. Brett, it looks like you got something to say.
So I got something on my mind, and
Uh
this is kind of for what I would say for the weekend warriors, because that's basically what I am. Because during the winter is usually my busy time at work, and I'm usually on overtime.
oh.
So
Right.
I'm only hunting Saturday, Sunday. Every once in a while, I get off on a Thursday and Friday a few times during deer season. But I felt like as soon as season out goes out, postseason scouting and doing the things I do in the off season is a great equalizer for the people who only can hunt the weekends. This is the time you can get the intel that you can't during hunting season because you're at work. So you're going out right now and season's out, but you're still going off the deer sign that's laid down during the time that you can hunt. So that is valuable. Now, it may not be early season material, but come the rut time, come later in the season, when you're going to see your bigger deer, usually it's going to be valuable. This is when you go find his core area. This is when you go into bedding areas. This is when you think back on every single hunt that you've been on. Where have you seen deer? Where did deer typically come from? Are they all come from the same area? Did you see bucks only coming from this area or this terrain? You get on them trails and you walk every single one, and you just learn everything you can about it. I mean, you walk all of it. And that is a great equalizer for the weekend warrior. Come the next season, you log every trail, log everything you find, like on whatever hunting app you use, and you have a map to go off of. I got maps. I'm like, I seen a deer on this trail. I put my map, and I'm like, I bet he's doing this, this, and that. And then I may be able to put out cameras and verify or whatnot. But I feel like this time of the year is a time that you can put in a lot of work and it can pay off for you. I know it can, because it's changed everything for me. I went from killing deer and having chances, one or two chances a year at a good buck, to consistently killing mature bucks. And it's all from all the work I put in off season. That's why I call it my bread and butter. It's what makes my season. It's off season. It's just being out there learning everything, because during deer season, I'm at work most of the time. So I can only hunt, and I don't want to go into them areas and blow them out. I like to stay out of them, but I love this time of the year because I know I can go in these areas now that I've been wanting to go in, and just I love it. I love just getting there. So I feel like I'm investigating, trying to figure out everything they did, and it's marked, and I'm using it for the next season. And these places that I'm finding during the off season is where I'm killing my mature bucks, and deer season come the next year.
Hmm.
I just wanted to say that.
Well, I mean, and the proof is in the pudding in the sense that you and I went and found. Now it wasn't in the immediate postseason, but you and I went and found a sign from the previous year, put up a camera. We combined a lot of the information that you had acquired from South Alabama to make a good prediction about what this area. You picked this spot out, not we. You picked this spot out on the map, and you wanted to go look at it. We went there. We found the sign from the previous year. Lucky for us, it was a swamp bottom, so it was a little easier to see that historical sign, unlike a lot of other places that grow up a little more clearly. And put the camera up and had a fantastic 10 point on camera. I mean, both you seen the photo. I mean, that's a 100-inch whitetail, right? I mean, that was
It's close to it, I would say.
yeah,
Close.
yeah, and good character, good mass, and I don't think he got shot this year. I got a camera still sitting in that area. Sometime this spring, I'm gonna go pull it and see. And if he didn't get shot, that's gonna be a freaking stud this year. It's gonna
I'm
be like,
going back this month sometime to go walk that area.
are you?
I'm
Yeah,
wanting to.
I do too. I was kind of thinking about this weekend, but it's still hunting season technically, so I don't really want to run into somebody. Maybe next weekend. Let's think about that. Chase, you're not invited. In fact, you don't get to know where it is. This is a Brett and I affair. This is kind of like the Ben
Randomly
love
pick
affair.
trees like, I'll hunt
Yeah,
in this tree and shoot a dang 100-inch deer. I mean, so
yeah,
he have to.
It
I
takes
mean,
skill to do that, Brett. It takes a lot of skill to do
yeah,
that. So
it
imagine
does.
if I actually had scouted that place, what I might have walked out of there with.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
if you post
I've
it to
got the
Scout,
e-bike,
that'd
so
be the deer you
I'm
shoot.
probably gonna get up there. I need to get up there in the off season.
yes, you do.
Take the e-bike, and I know the pattern. Like if we go back up there again next year, I know what the pattern is for
Mm-hmm.
those deer
Yep,
without a doubt.
yep.
So I don't. I'm not saying I would go kill a stud, but I'm pretty sure I could go there and kill a deer at the same time of year next year. Just listening to other people. I mean, you can learn a lot from other people. Or okay, what are the deer doing? How can I relate that to where I'm at? And I think that Patreon hunt that we had with all the people there, all the eyes in the woods,
Yeah.
what they were seeing. I mean, how many hunts would you call that for somebody? I mean, with all the information that everybody was giving each other, I
20.
mean, what do we have? 20 guys?
Yeah, 21
Well, how
guys
many
there.
sits?
Worth
So
hunting intel.
60 sits. I mean,
Yep.
60, 70, 80 sits or whatever.
And a lot of those
basically,
guys just did like a
on
bunch
that
of
one
scouting.
piece. Yeah. So there was a lot of
Yeah.
intel to be able to gather from that. And I think that I think, like I said, we definitely need to go back there next year. I definitely need to get up with you, scout it some, for
We
sure.
have to jump some bucks from me and you and Ron scouted before the hunt.
Yeah, yeah, I like that area where Ron was. I mean, who knows? Maybe we bumped him out of there that day or whatever. But I think that if you went there 3 or 4 days later, I really feel like you would have had a good shot at shooting a buck in that spot.
Mm-hmm.
So it just may have been. It's Florida, so
Yeah.
it just could have been whatever. They're on their 3-day pattern or 4-day pattern or 10-day pattern of going through that area.
That could have been a Roman deer. The sign that we saw in there could have been another big deer.
Yeah.
We were talking peak rut when we were there. In that area, Chase, you're like, I feel like I could kill a good deer. I mean, I had 5 deer that were 100-inch or better on camera, like right in that range just this year, and I had multiple encounters with one of them out, and well, I'm not gonna say that. I had multiple encounters with 2 different deer, right before daylight or just right at daylight, and the wind shifted. Everybody knows that story, but I feel like if the 3 of us really invest in that time, especially in this postseason, which yields huge benefits, I feel like we could definitely get on the deer in that area and have ourselves a good time. I think that's definitely a place, though, that early bow season would actually be really, really good as well. If you can tolerate the bugs, I feel like that's going to be a place that early bow season. Um, I probably like once it opens up, I'll probably settle out to hunting there and bouncing around through those swamps and catching deer moving through those areas. I'm all my cell cameras and trail cameras are going to be out there this year. That's for dang sure. So
Yeah, yeah, I bet it is good. Early bow season.
yeah.
So I can't say too much about it without giving the place away. So
Yeah, I know. I keep trying to edit. I'm gonna let's
um,
just change the or name it. We'll call it Tatel. That's what we'll call it.
Tate Hill. Yeah.
Tatel. But well, gentlemen, the main purpose of this podcast was to kind of give everybody that idea. I think looking back, um, I don't really think that I could have done much differently. I feel like one of the major things that I could do is perfect my system as I climb the tree. I do this every year, where like the first few sits are rough, where I'm like relearning my process or little nuances to it, or I'm away from it for a year and I realize things that I had been tolerating can be fixed, and I find solutions. By the tail end of all my sits, I had a system that really worked for me, but the point from which I left the top stick to the platform and got all my camera gear and everything set up, I want to get that like a little more streamlined, and I think I've come up with a good way to do it, um, to where it's a little quieter, maybe a little bit faster. And I think I want to kind of coordinate a couple things that I've seen. You know, Brett, you have a nader that you use with those cabletors on the Timber Ninjas. Not a
Wait,
nader? Schwader. That's what it is.
Nader goes on your knee.
Yours is on your foot.
Yeah, it's on my foot and it goes all the way up to my waistline.
I got you. Okay, okay. So I want to do one of those, I think, with some cabletors because I could cut down on the amount of sticks that I'm carrying. I think maybe I might change up what stick I'm using. But I feel like my system was pretty fair. One thing I may also do is I've got a bright blue bow. Um, and hunting from the tree, it doesn't bug me. I don't have any issue with it. I love it. But I'm considering like putting a strip of camo tape down the front of it and on the limbs, maybe like limbs, maybe some of that stealth strip, just so I can hunt from the ground. Because Brett, I've always wanted to hunt from the ground. I did more of it this year than I did last year. I did more last year than I did ever before. And then you went into some of these areas that were really thick, and you had those encounters. And when I look back on the trail camera pictures of where I have consistent deer movement, it's in those thick areas year round, regardless of the season. Consistent daylight photos in that thickness. And I think hunting from the ground might be something that you see me do a lot more of because, frankly, it's a lot more fun to hunt from the ground when you're scouting your way in because you don't have to pick a tree. You don't have to set up and carry all that extra weight. You walk in there, you find a good backdrop, you take some of those deadfalls like you're saying, you construct an area based on the wind, and you just hunt, man. And I had a lot of fun doing that last year, and seeing your success doing it, it's really sparked a real passion for me again.
Yeah.
So, well, gentlemen, that I feel like hits us where we want to be and leave this conversation. We don't quite have enough time to get into the storytelling component of this, but do y'all have any final thoughts for the listener?
I mean,
Final thoughts for the listener, or you go ahead, Brett. I'll close it out.
my final thought would be if you didn't have the deer season you wanted this 2021 season, right now is the time to change it for next year. Get out in the woods and learn your areas that you've been hunting. Go off the intel that you've seen from the stand and walk these trails you see deer on. Are they getting to you at midnight? Are they an hour before daylight or after? Get on the trails and figure it out. Get in the thick stuff. Find out where they're living. Write down the sign. Mark the trails. Like I'll get on a trail and I'll mark it and I'll walk it all the way out till I can't find it no more. And I'll mark it on the map. But then I might walk all the way back because there was another trail, and then get on that trail and mark it out. So I basically have a map of all the deer trails in these areas. So it just helps a lot to figure stuff out. Then you find a lot of trails that cross. There may be 4 or 5 trails crossing. That's where you want to put your camera, and that's where you want to hunt if it's huntable. Now, the spot that I'm hunting on the ground is one of those spots. There's 5 trails that all cross in this one spot, and that's where I did all my ground hunting was in that particular spot. And I found that from postseason scouting again. And like Walter said, I've always looked at stuff like, man, this looks so good. There's just no trees to get in. And I've always wanted to hunt from the ground, but I just wouldn't do it because I didn't feel comfortable. And I want to be a better rounded hunter and work on my weaknesses. So I decided the ground game and the calling for this past season was what I was going to work on. And so basically, I just went out of my comfort zone and then doing the postseason scouting. But postseason scouts definitely changed the game for me.
Oh, the proof's in the pudding for you, man. I can't wait to see what happens. I can't wait to get up with you. We talked about it. One of the things I want to do this year is I want to come up there and I'm going to scout with you. I want to kind of see what's going on. I'm very seriously wanting to add Alabama to the list of states that I've killed a turkey in, which means I'm probably going to buy an Alabama license so that it's deer and turkey. I can get both of those. So maybe I could bum one of your doe spots or something. I don't know, just shoot a doe or two.
Hunt them all.
Go ahead, Chase. Close us out, my man.
This time.
Plenty of doe spots.
Yeah.
No, I was gonna say I know a lot of people listen to this. Most guys are trying to learn something. It seems like when you're getting on podcasts, I think it's kind of why we all kind of get into the hunting podcast. Is maybe you might be struggling with something, or you just want to be a better deer hunter. And I think a lot of people put pressure on themselves during deer season, which there's no reason to ever put pressure on yourself. To me, hunting's one of those things that's a lifelong sport. So it's not a sprint. I mean, it's a marathon. So if you can figure out like maybe one thing a year to work on, or if you're doing something and you've been doing it for the last 4 or 5 years. I mean, I've heard Brett kind of say it's like, and it's not working. Then, like I said, you're going to have to get out of your comfort zone and figure out a different way. I know everybody's situation is different. Where I can get out in the woods a lot more than the normal person because of work schedule. Where some people are your weekend warrior, and I feel like I was like, there's no reason you should be putting crazy pressure on yourself to where it's like, oh, I got to kill all $5 this year. I got to kill a Florida registry buck or an Alabama book buck or wherever you're hunting at. Hunting's, it's supposed to be fun. I know everybody has a different type of passion for it on how they want to do it, where they want to do it, and all that. But I think if you kind of can reflect and not necessarily want to get to your end game right now to where you're like, okay, I want to be the best hunter ever right now. All that takes time. If you look at everybody, it's took them years and years and years to get to where they're at, and it took them that long to figure out a system that works for them. Brett's doing that now, figuring out a system that works for him. And I think Brett will be the first to tell you that he still is not even close to having that perfected yet. And to look at it as it's a long-term game. Stay in that long-term game goal, just like the stock market or whatever else. And over time, you'll see that compound interest just keep growing and growing and growing.
I've got so little to add to that.
You never stop learning.
Yeah.
I feel like you will learn. From being a first-year hunter to hunting 60 years or something to learn. And time in the woods is everything if you want to learn. Just being out in the woods, not necessarily hunting, just walking the woods, looking for deer sign. You're going to learn so much from that, whether you know it or not. And I feel like every day I walk in the woods, I want to take something away. I want to learn something that I did not know. I try to take something away from everything. I think about it like on my ride home or something. Like, what did I learn today being in the woods? What can I take away from it? Something.
Yeah. And I've heard, I want to be a hunter, like whatever. If I've been hunting 30 years, I want to have 30 years of experience. I don't want to have 1 year of experience 30 times. So I mean, you can kind of look at it like that. I mean, you need to be working on yourself and not be the guy that's just, like I said, if you're doing the same thing every year, I feel like you're that person that has 1 year of experience 30 different times, as opposed to working over the long haul and getting that 30 years of experience to make you the hunter that you eventually want to be one day.
That's a humdinger of a sentence right there, dude. That is profound. Oh, wow. Yeah, no, you're right though. You are totally right. That is, man.
I'm just curious on what Chase has for us. What he can work on during the off season, or anything you feel like, or anything like you feel like you can improve on, or something like, or that you need to.
I mean, Walter said he wanted this to be a short podcast. No, I mean, I can work on everything, Brett. I mean, I
Heart shots.
feel like I'm good enough. I mean, I'm good. I'm good. There's things I'm good at. There's plenty of things that I'm weak at. I feel like something over the last couple of years that I would say that I would say that was a strength, but now is a weakness is my like preseason prep, like my shooting and things like that. Like before, I used to shoot my bow all the time. Like I'd be constantly out there shooting my bow. Didn't matter what time of the year it was. I had uh, archery target set up and would just be out there. I had to go shoot 5, 6 shots one day, and then the next day I may shoot 20 shots or whatever. And for some reason or the other, I've kind of gotten out of that routine, and I need to get back into that routine. I don't know. Who knows with a shot on the deer that I took on that hunt, whether, I mean, I'm sure it was something I did, but was out of practice at that point. Like I brought the bow and who knows, made a bad shot on the deer, but I feel like I can work on that. And I feel like one of my weaknesses for sure, I don't necessarily call if it's a weakness, but is I just don't cyber scout that much. Like I really don't spend a lot of time looking at the map. And I don't know if it's just because maybe I'm not good. I don't feel like I'm good at it to where I'm looking for certain things. I do look at the map, just not as nowhere near as much as I hear other people constantly look at cyber scouting for deer. But I feel like I make up for that from boots on the ground a lot. Yeah, I feel like that's one of the ways. And in Florida, I mean, it's just so hard to look at the map and be able to go, okay, yeah, this is what this is. I mean, it just all looks the same to me. I mean, a lot of it just looks the same to me, and maybe I need to work on that more of finding those little nuances and stuff on the map and investigating those more. So I feel like that's probably two things that I can work on this off season. And I don't really get out. I definitely don't scout as much as you do postseason. We'll call it postseason as much as you do, Brett. I feel like a lot of my postseason scouting is probably during turkey hunting because I'm not the turkey hunting fiend that Walter is. I mean, I turkey hunt. I like to turkey hunt, but I feel like I'm more deer scouting while I'm out turkey hunting. I'm looking for deer sign and the trails and tracks and finding the last season scrapes and rubs, and I feel like I'm more focused on that than I am necessarily turkey hunting a lot. But I wouldn't necessarily call that a weakness. I would just call that something that I need to do more of.
Yeah.
But overall, I'm weak. I mean, I probably need to work on my luck. I feel like I need to work on my luck is a weakness. That's probably one of the weaknesses that I have.
The dude sets foot on a place he's never been before and within 24 hours kills, fatally wounds
Fatally wounds a deer.
fatally wounds a huge deer. That was crazy, man. Well, Brett, I appreciate you taking time out your evening, man. We talk all the time as it is, but we seldom have the opportunity to hit record. I hope for the listener, you're sitting here thinking about this. You're thinking about the off season. You know, as much as I'm a turkey hunting fiend, I'm still thinking about last year as well. And when I'm turkey hunting, it's past that prime, or I don't have a bird that's firing off on my way to find one. I'm looking at that sign. I'm dropping pins, and I found some places that I'll be hunting via water access during turkey season. And so, for you guys out there listening to this podcast, I want you to take the time to kind of reflect on this past season. Also, carve out some time this spring to get out there and do some scouting. I'm going to have some scouting videos come out probably in the next couple weeks where Brett and I get together and go look at some of these areas, or myself if Brett can't join me, or if Chase wants to join me. There's going to be scouting videos where I show you what postseason scouting looks like for me personally. And I'd also say this for anybody who's listening to this show, or watching this show or listening, however, Chase or Brett and I are representing right now the Florida Public Land Hunter shirt. We have a select run of these left from the last order. They are on the website right now. Limited quantities. I think we're looking at large, extra large, and 2XL right now. I think the Hobla Goblas are all sold out, but if there's enough interest come March 1, I'll probably put in another order for some more Hobla Gobbla t-shirts as well. And I got some cool designs coming. My wife got this fancy new iPad, and then I have these little harebrained ideas, and I send them over to her, and she puts them into text. So get ready. We might have a new shirt for this turkey season. I know 100% we'll have at least 2 deer shirts coming out for this fall, and you guys are going to benefit from that. And yeah, tell somebody about the podcast. Leave us a rating. I'd like to get us to 200 ratings this year. We're at 161, Chase. Speaking of, why don't I read one off real quick? We got a new one the other day. It was Brett's mom. She took the time to leave us a rating and a review.
I know better than that.
I should have had this ready from the jump. Here it is. So this is Tougher Than Nails with the most creative edit of that. But Walt and Chase work together. The podcast is a great balance of stories, tactics, funny antics, and gear breakdowns. Chase, somebody finds this freaking funny, dude. Like that's huge. I just feel like I come off as stupid half the time, so. But that leaves us 39 reviews. If we could get 39 reviews this year and get us to 200, we're almost at a straight five-star with 161 reviews. If we get to 200, that'd be great. But tell a friend about the podcast. Consider signing up for Patreon so you can pick the brain of the South Alabama legend and talk to Chase and all the different guys who have all these wonderful areas of expertise. And so the money goes to supporting the show, and we'd love to see you over there. So until next time, the most important thing is get outside and enjoy the great outdoors.